Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. We are at the MPLS and SDN World Congress in Paris, and of course Paris and France is the home of cinema, which is some sort of reason maybe why we're doing these interviews in a cinema at the venue. But anyway, it's unusual, but nonetheless I'm glad to be here. My name is Martin Warwick and I'm happy to be talking with Chris Price from Ericsson, who is the chairman of the OPNFV Technical Steering Committee. And we'll get on to that in a moment, Chris, but welcome. Thanks for coming in and giving us your time. SDN and NFV are as much about business transformation as network transformation. What are the things in your view that service providers need to do from that business transformation perspective to ensure they take full advantage of SDN and NFV?
So I think one of the big challenges for the start is the transformation from purchasing on a per device and per solution basis to purchasing towards an infrastructure layer and then a virtualization layer and then the actual software-based services on top. Purchasing and acquisition and understanding pricing and understanding partnerships on that level when it comes to working with vendors is going to be critical for operators. Additionally, the changes in purchasing and the changes in deployment bring about changes in operations. There needs to be a review of operations, how operators go about deploying services, how they go about building services. It should be much faster for them to be able to deploy and deliver new services, and that's certainly one of the goals of SDN and NFV. And the third thing, I guess, really is learning how to monetize, learning how to create value on top of this infrastructure. The whole purpose of this is to increase revenue streams or create new revenue streams for operators. Understanding the new business models that they need to apply when bringing up new services, I think, is critical.
Thanks for that, Chris. I'd like to talk to you about OPNFV. You are the chairman of the OPNFV Technical Steering Committee, as we established earlier. Tell us about the project itself as a concept, what its goals are, what you want to achieve.
So the project is, I guess, a vision for the infrastructure as a service layer. What we hope to achieve is to establish a common architecture, a common view, a common understanding of how a telecommunications grade infrastructure as a service layer can be produced and utilized and evaluated and deployed to. The scope of OPNFV is very broad. We talk from the hardware. We have a number of labs around the globe from a number of vendors and a number of customers who want to be able to integrate a common platform into their equipment or onto their equipment. And we have a number of infrastructure as a service vendors and consumers participating together to evaluate different options, different capabilities and different use cases. And then we have software vendors like Ericsson and others who want to be able to deploy our applications on top of this. And we all join together in a large consortia. And at this point in time, we're really coming out with what will be the first release of OPNFV, what will that first reference platform really look like. And once we have that established and we have that foundation work, we really begin to work more with our customers or more with the operators and the remainder of the community to start to deploy on that, to bring in new components, to be able to drive forwards towards telco-grade is really what we're aiming for.
Thank you. Given what we've been talking about so far, what do you think are the biggest challenges for service providers in the market today?
So the biggest challenges for SPs really are to engage in the new business opportunities that they see. They need to be able to modernize their architectures and their infrastructures. They need to be able to create an environment where they can deploy new services quickly, where they can address markets as they arrive, and not lose when the markets disperse. What we see is in a lot of technology areas, there is a very short window of opportunity to take advantage of a market and generate revenue based on those markets. And operators need to be able to move at that speed. As we see other cloud vendors and over-the-top players doing today.
Okay, thank you. Given the challenges, which are quite profound in many cases, not least being the organisational changes and the cultural changes within telcos to be able to cope with this and what that's going to mean, given those challenges, why is it worth it for them?
It's a question of survival, I would guess. I mean, not necessarily survival, but the ability to generate new business. In the over-the-top world, which is really the world that's encroaching upon telco space now, telecommunication service providers don't necessarily have ownership of the telecommunications space anymore. So over the top is playing into those areas, and for telecommunications providers or telecommunications service providers to be more than just telecommunications capability providers. They need to be able to modernize, they need to be able to deploy services, and they need to be able to monetize on top. What's in it for them is the ability to expand into new domains, the ability to compete competitively, I mean, at the lowest common denominator on pure infrastructure, and generate revenue in the high value services area.
So given what you've just been saying then, when do you think you're going to see the benefits being reaped? When is it going to be, and who's going to be the first?
Who's going to be the first? That's a good question. When is it going to be? It's going to be over the next couple of years. I mean, I don't see that anyone's there now. I see a lot of good movement from various operators. I see a lot of really good intentions, strong activity to reorganize and restructure. When will it occur? I would say it's still a year or two out, but what I would expect to see is that we start to see new services popping up. We start to see those trials, those proof of concepts, and not just proof of concept from a technology perspective, but go-to-market proof of concepts. And then as that matures, as those models become more repeatable and more sustainable, then we'll start to see the real change occurring across the telecommunication service.
Who do you think is likely to be first, and where? This is a global phenomenon. Is it going to be in North America, or is it going to be in Europe? What do you think?
Well, there are leaders in North America, there are leaders in Europe, and there are leaders across Asia. Each has a slightly different approach, and each is driven, I guess, by regional demands. So it's going to be very easy for one to complain one to claim leadership because they are leading in what they're intending to lead in. For the holistic picture, it's really anyone's ball game to know which will be the final success story. But even then, it may end up being a regional success, and it may end up being driven by regional demands. So it's difficult to say if there is one leader across the globe.
Which companies in the NFV SDN ecosystem do you think are beginning to emerge as the key potential partners to help service providers overcome the challenges they face? We're seeing, since the proliferation of the cloud, we're seeing more and more partnering between erstwhile rivals, competitors, and deadly enemies sometimes. So, what do you think, which companies are best placed for this?
I think from a partnership perspective, partnering on the same activities is not really high value. Partnering where you gain value from that partnership is what we see as the most valuable way forwards. For software vendors to partner with service deployment groups, for services organizations, for fixed line groups to partner with mobile enabled groups. These are the sorts of partnerships that will emerge. I think as the go-to-market matures for these partnerships, we'll start to see coalitions, I guess, across different groups. But at the end of the day, you need to create partnerships in order to have the whole package. You need the infrastructure to deploy on. You need a middleware that you can trust that enables you to be flexible on your infrastructure choices. And then you need someone who can deploy services and end-to-end solutions over a variety of infrastructure as a service software layers and hardware layers. So the skill sets in each of those groups is slightly different. And I think it will be natural for some partnerships to occur where there is a sort of a consistent view, and there may even be segmentation occurring across the horizontal market that we see emerging today.
Okay, interesting stuff. Chris Price, thank you.
Thank you.